This is from the latest info coming in from CNN, which I think this is from yesterday, but this is the link that Rihanna posted that everybody got mad at. Got 253,000 retweets. They shut the internet off. How is that legal? Yeah, the Kashmir region says hello. India shuts off internet all the goddamn time. They do shit like that when they want to. It is entirely different. Their form of governance there is not like the United States. Internet access remained blocked on Monday. You need to look at why they're saying it's good from their perspective and debunk that. Please look both sides. I mean, I can give you the both sides argument. The other side's argument is that this will be better for, this is fair pricing, that government intervention doesn't work, that this is too expensive of an endeavor, there's too much waste, and that, you know, whoever the fucking big player is going to do a much better job. Look at how efficient it's going to be. And it will be efficient. It will be efficient in terms of rice or agricultural production. It'll be efficient in terms of distribution. But unfortunately, efficiency under capitalism does not mean what is the best for the people itself. So many farmers will be priced out. So many farmers will no longer be able to make money as a consequence of this. And we're talking, because it's fucking India, we're not talking like 50,000 people. We're talking 1 million people. We're talking 250,000 people. You understand? This happens everywhere, by the way. Like, this isn't just a India issue. This is not an issue that is just in India. This happens everywhere around the world. Yeah, they say everything's bigger in Texas, but everything's actually bigger in India. Even their fascism. 48-hour internet shutdown was also imposed on 3 other areas in the Delhi borders late on Friday, with India's Ministry of Home Affairs saying the move was in the interest of maintaining public safety and averting public emergency, like Robin Hood saying, this is in your interest not to be able to buy, artificially causing the price to fucking decrease of GME stocks. You know, it's in your best interest to not be able to tweet out when we're beating the shit out of your protesters. According to officials, those blackouts should have been lifted on Sunday night, but Ramjit Singh Katyal, a spokesperson for the Samyukta Kisan Morcha, an umbrella body representing protesting farmers, said the internet was still not working as of Monday. Demonstrators gathered at the Singhu border as farmer protests against new farm laws. Internet restrictions came after violent scenes last week as demonstrators continue against 3 agricultural laws passed in September. Since late November, hundreds of thousands of protesters were gathered on the outskirts of New Delhi to demonstrate against charges they say they weren't consulted on and which will hurt their livelihoods. On Tuesday last week, a national holiday known as Republic Day that marks the anniversary of the enactment of the country's constitution, thousands of protesters stormed New Delhi's historic Red Fort as police used tear gas and batons against the demonstrators. Dozens of officers were injured and one protester died when a tractor overturned during the protest near the New Delhi police headquarters. Police said Wednesday. More than 100 protesters are still missing, Samyukta Kisan Morcha said Sunday. An internet shutdown was also imposed in new areas. Darshan Paul, who is the SKM, a leader from SKM, condemned the internet shutdowns, calling the moves undemocratic. The government does not want the real facts to reach protesting farmers, nor their peaceful conduct to reach the world. It wants to spread its false spin around farmers. It is also fearful of the coordinated work of the farmers' unions across different protest sites, and it's trying to cut off communication between them. Communication means between them. By the way, a lot of these dudes are literal communists, for the record. For those of you who get triggered by the sight of like hammer and sickle and shit, like, they are a part of the Communist Party. They are communists themselves. They are engaging in what a robust militant labor force would be able to do if they had the power to organize, which they do. Are you aware of the right-wing links between Trumpism, Modi, BJP, RSS? Yes, I am aware of the right-wing links between Modi and Donald Trump. The government does not want that. Nevertheless, the farmers are still joining the protest. SKM's Katyal said Monday, typically the village groups work against each other, but this time they have all united for their collective fight. Additional Deputy Commissioner of Police in Delhi, Jitendra Meena, said police had deployed more force at the border. Although India is the world's most populous democracy, it also topped the world in terms of internet shutdowns in 2019. Of course, there was I mentioned this already, but there was a month-long internet blackout in Indian-controlled Kashmir after India rewrote the constitution to remove Kashmir's protected autonomy. Remember, we talked about this back when they made a move, literally turned around and fucking arrested like the authorities there in Kashmir, like elected representatives in Kashmir. It's a classic fascist bullshit. It's very similar to what Bibi Netanyahu is doing. It's very similar to what Donald Trump tried to do. It's just that when you are a hyper-militant, fascist, authoritarian leader, you have to unite against the common enemy and also continue to deregulate markets, continue to destroy labor unions, because this kind of shit can't happen because you can't control when 250 million people get together and say fuck you, and we are not working, we are not striking. That same year, authorities shut down internet in other areas. We already talked about that. Approach is controversial. Controversial. On Saturday, Mandeep Punia, a freelance journalist covering the protest, was arrested on the border between Delhi and Haryana. Punya's lawyer Akram Khan told CNN Monday. Punia has been this is what I remember. Yeah, Punia has been remanded to judicial custody for 14 days from Sunday, accused of obstructing a public servant from discharging his duty and voluntarily causing hurt and assault or criminal force to deter a public servant from duty. They were merely carrying out their journalistic duties, and another journalist was detained along him, but was released around midnight. Punia got bail, but he fucking wrote all names and accounts of fellow farmers detained in jail on his fucking leg with a pen to write a report on it later. He's golden. For decades, the Indian government offered guaranteed prices. There was a long-term certainty that, in theory, allowed them to make investments for the next crop cycle. The new rules allow farmers to sell their goods to anyone for any price, giving them more freedom to do things such as sell directly to buyers and not sell to other states. But farmers argue that the new rules will leave them worse off by making it easier for corporations to exploit agricultural workers and help big companies drive down prices. What is remarkable to me in this entire story, perhaps one of the most unique parts about this entire story, is the reality that the farmers themselves are very aware of the negative aspects of deregulation. Usually in America, you have workers and even, farmers like this oftentimes rail against government regulation and hate government regulation and say it's a big government overreach. It's the same mentality that Americans have about, like, I'm a worker, I don't really deserve this fucking $2,000 stimulus check, I shouldn't get it. Whereas when you have labor organizing, when you have an opportunity to educate others, you can look beyond the immediate tangible benefits that you may get for the short term, like being able to sell to a private business that is going to pay a pretty penny up front and ahead of time, and remind yourself that the private business will fuck you over in the long term. You see what I'm saying? You can't do that, and you can't get so many people to organize without some sort of centralized command force, I guess. But farmers argue that the new rules will leave them worse off by making it easier for corporations to exploit agricultural workers and help big companies drive down prices, which is exactly what's going to happen. They could sell crops at elevated prices if the demand is there. Conversely, they could struggle to meet the minimum price in years when there is too much supply in the market. The laws have been so contentious because agriculture is the primary source of livelihood for about 58% of India's 1.3 billion population, and farmers have been arguing for years to get the minimum guaranteed prices increased. They are the biggest voter bloc in the country, making farming a central political issue. The government held rounds of talks with leaders of more than 30 farmers' unions that are opposed to the laws, but the talks have gone nowhere. As in, the government did not listen to the leaders of the farming unions. 58% of the country, 30 fucking farmers' unions are able to mobilize, or more than that probably, but are able to mobilize 58% of the country. That's fucking insane. Well, not mobilize in the entirety of 58% of the country, but at least like 250 million people. Last month, India's Supreme Court issued an order putting the three contentious farm laws on hold and ordered the formation of a 4-member mediation committee to help the parties negotiate. But farmer leaders have rejected any court-appointed mediation committee. Oh, at least 147. This was the number I was looking for. That's the reason why I clicked on this link. At least 147 farmers have died during the course of the months-long protest from a range of causes, including suicide, road accidents, and exposure to cold weather. And authorities, of course, have not given an official figure on protester deaths. But the fascist Indian party and the fascist Indian police are beating the fucking living shit out of protesters who are largely peaceful protesters. I'm assuming there is going to be, I'm sure this has already happened, but there's got to be some kind of like movement that occurred that the government is using to justify violent action. I'm sure something has already happened in which the government said, well, look, there's violence here. These guys are actually not peaceful. They're actually violent, to justify further beating the shit out of the protesters. No one is talking about it because they are not farmers. They are terrorists who are trying to divide India so that China can take over our vulnerable, broken nation and make it a Chinese colony, much like USA. Sit down, you fool. We are not selling our nation like you dummies. Says Kangana Ranaut, artist. Oh, God. Alexa played Diamonds by Rihanna. She's a huge Bollywood actress. The problem with movements like this is that, like, good luck getting these dudes' point of view. when the internet is fucking already blocked, when the most like forward facing or outside facing communication from India is going to be not coming from fucking farmers, but instead, you know, celebrities and shit that you have learned about or hear about, especially in a country where there is gigantic income inequality, like India. You are only going to hear about it from shills for the BJP, and even like American Indian, some American Indian celebrities that talk about shit like this, oftentimes will take like a very, very pro-Modi approach, which is surprising to some. Wasn't it Priyanka Chopra who like literally fucking said during the Kashmir stuff? Yeah. Priyanka Chopra was like, during the Kashmir stuff, like in support of Modi. Partially because they're dumb as fuck. And I mean, think about it, like American celebrities aren't super well versed in American politics, you know what I mean? Also, the notorious flag being raised clip wasn't actually a Khalistan flag, but or is it Khalistan flag? What is its significance? Inspired by the idea of Khalistan, in reality was quite different. The original interpretation of the protesters' act comes from Baghel Singh, the Sikh general who had hoisted a flag at Red Fort after emerging victorious in his conflict against Mughals. Like, why are they fucking triggered by this? Oh, because they're gonna run the separatist narrative. Okay, so this is what they will. So when protests like this happen, where people have legitimate grievances, those in control that are being protested against will find a way to dilute the movement and make it seem as though the people are acting out of some other reason beyond like literally we need to continue to survive by farming. They will have to reframe it. It happens with the Black Lives Matter protests where they say, well, these guys actually just hate cops and they're violent terrorists. And in a similar capacity, I assume part of the way to attack this protest is by saying this is actually a terrorist separatist group. It's the same protocol everywhere around the planet. The Indian media is the worst. Arnab Goswami, the Tucker Carlson of India, had his WhatsApp messages exposed, which proved he was framing his coverage purely based on directions from the Indian government. Nobody in the media talked about it. Yeah, the media is, again, both in America and also in every other fucking country of the planet, under a capitalist organization of the economy. The media absolutely works as the pillar that holds and normalizes government actions. They will justify it. They will... Everyone says their media is the worst. I mean, yeah, it's because media is relatively reactionary depending on where you are, no matter what, because their job isn't to be honest brokers of the truth. Their job is to uphold whatever the fucking truth that the current powerful people want you to believe is the truth. I feel so elated. I don't remember being so happy, excited. The cancer in the body of this nation we were looking for has been located, identified, and now the process of eradication will start. Dude, yo, what the fuck? Yo, this happened during Kashmir too. I swear to God, bro. I don't know if it's like English as a second language shit, even though like Indian people are basically fucking first language English speakers too, as a consequence of, you know, colonialism. But whenever fucking Indian celebrities write about what's going on, it literally reads like, if you translated the German, it's just Nazi shit. Straight up. It's all just garbage propaganda, and I assure you it's not a translation issue. Everyone is so aggressive about the way BJP exists in the country. It's sickening. Indian media is like American media. If every channel was Fox News and CNN was way smaller and even more establishment. Funny though, like you mentioned, India is vastly underdeveloped, but their laborers seem to know their rights better. Well, it's a consequence of being vastly underdeveloped that their laborers seem to know their rights better, because professional... like there isn't as much impact through financialization of their marketplaces or financialization in general. There isn't as much an impact of professionalization of their labor force, I guess. Like, our labor force is completely fucking segregated, totally separate from one another. People live in islands. They don't recognize their fellow workers. They don't recognize that we all have the same fucking interests, and that we could unite along those lines. Whereas if you are literally a fucking farmer, and no matter what, even if you're competing with another farmer, you understand that like this is what you do, and it's going to be significantly worse if a corporation takes over the purchasing process. That's part of it. That's one theory as to why a second like red revolution might not ever happen in the world, as it stands, because there is no like, we don't have that same kind of labor organizing that was easy to create in a factory floor as in the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution.